Marc Henry here with the Platform DFW Podcast, part of the Platform Podcast Network. We're going to hop into week 4. That means district play is underway here in the DFW, all across the state of Texas. For the most part, it's time to get with it, man. This means that everybody's vying for a playoff spot starting this week. There's no other game that's bigger than the one that you're playing this week. So let's dive right into it. Of course, we're going to talk about the Southlake Carroll Dragons. They're the number one team in the state right now. They're taking on the Euless Trinity Trojans. Now, Southlake started their district play early last week. They got a big victory over Byron Nelson. They're led by Angelo Randa, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Texas in the class 2026, a Pittsburgh commit. You've got Brock Boyd, who's one of the top receivers in the country, committed to Ohio State. Sorry, he's a Buckeye. You got Brody Noels and you got Blake Gunter, Davis Penn, and those guys and one of the best offensive lines that you're going to see in the country. Of course, they're led by head coach Riley Dodge. They are what you want to see when it comes to one of the top teams, definitely in the state and in the country. Louis Trinity's coming in as one of those teams that's trying to spoil that. I had a chance to see Trinity earlier this year in the scrimmage taking on North Crowley, and they didn't disappoint. Matt Lineweaver was the quarterback that's under center over there. Of course, they got JT Harris in the backfield as well. This could turn out to be a big time game. Now, last year they went back and forth until Southlake kind of just took over this game and finished it out. They went on to make a run to a state title game, and they lost coming up short against Vandergrift. But I think that this Southlake Carroll team is definitely a team that you're going to see that's going to be one of those teams that it could be in Jerry World in December. But I want to talk about a guy that they got on defense that's kind of the guy that's the glue guy, and that's Jake Lucky. He's one of those defensive tackles that maybe, he's not going to get all the fanfare because he does the dirty work. But listen, he's a guy that gets it done. Jake Lucky is a guy that I like at Southlake Carroll in that defensive front. He kind of controls the tempo, controls space. He's not going to get all the sacks and all the notoriety, but when you turn on the tape, you see that Lucky really controls the tempo in the trenches. He's a guy that's a wrestler as well, so he knows how to use that leverage. He knows how to get, underneath some of the taller offensive linemen that he'll face. But I really think that this guy doesn't get a lot of love, and Jake Lucky's one of those guys. Of course, you got Robbie Ladd on the defensive side, Will Taholo as well. Southlake Carroll is loaded. You got Chin at safety as well. This is a veteran team, and they want to go back to state. They feel like they left some food, some meat on the bone last year, not closing that out against Vandergrift. But it starts this week against the Trinity Trojans. This has become kind of a rivalry, if you will, when it comes to this particular matchup. Now, the big matchup down south is going to be the Duncanville Panthers and the Waxahachie Indians. This is an 11-6A matchup, the District of Doom, if you will. And now Duncanville's coming off a little bit of a bye week, a break. They had the week off. They beat South of Cliff about 2 weeks ago, 35-28 in their home opener. Junior quarterback Max Denson had a phenomenal game, throwing 3 touchdowns, running for one as well. You got Trenton Yancey, Zach Turner, Ace Theus, Arnold in the backfield. Of course, on the defensive side, you got two of the best defensive edge rushers in the country in KJ Ford, the Florida commit, and also Landon Barnes, the Ole Miss commit. These guys get after defensively, and in the secondary, they got one of the better cover guys in the state of Texas and SMU committed Braylon Edwards. Now, Waxahachie's coming off a big win over Forney, where they shut down one of the best backs in the country in Javion Osborne, who's headed to Notre Dame. They held him under 100 yards. That defense is something that you need to know about. Of course, Cliff Tollison's a defensive guy. He's had great teams here, but this could be the team that takes down Duncanville in this district. You got Jerry Meyer the third, the junior quarterback who committed to TCU recently. You got the Texas commit and Cohen Brown out on the outside. Jordan Smith is another guy that you need to know about on the offensive side of the ball. Can play slot, can play running back, special teams contributor as well. Cohen Brown took back a punt against Capel about 2 weeks ago. Waxahachie Indians are ready for this. It's going to be in Waxahachie this weekend. So we're going to definitely have to make an appearance in this one. This is going to be that platform game of the week. If you check the platform.dr out in the morning, you'll see a whole write up about this particular game and a couple more games as we spotlight that game of the week. That'll probably be the game of the week in the DFW areas, that Duncanville, Waxahachie matchup. On the defensive side, you got Cedric Morris Jr., 6'5", coming off the edge. You got Jaquan Snell in the backfield, who's one of the top 2027 safeties in the state of Texas. This is loaded. I expect college coaches to be in attendance to this one, as well as scouts, and there's to be heavy media present. So I think this is a big game that people are probably talking about around the state. Two teams definitely ranked in the state of Texas. Duncanville's ranked number two in the state right now, and I think Waxahachie is just outside the top 10 at 17. So this is a big game. Definitely a DFW game to watch, man. And we'll definitely be talking about that the rest of the week. North Crowley welcomes in the Yellow Jackets from Rockwall. They come off a big victory over Geyer last week, 28-27. Now, this was a close game between two teams that'll be playoff teams. Geyer takes back the opening kick of the second half and goes up. But North Crowley comes back. That defense, Coach Gates, they get it together. Coach Harrison, those guys over there, they play defense over there. Demario Mays, the 2028 wide receiver, had a monster game as well as Braylon Cunningham, who's a true freshman, a 2029 cornerback that you need to know about. He's also a great kick returner as well. He had a wonderful game as well, 5 tackles and interception, and only gave up 1 catch. That's lockdown defense. Of course, Aaron Bradshaw, the Texas commit, came up with a big sack to kind of shut down that Geyer drive. Caden Cobbs had a great game as well for Geyer. Geyer will be a playoff team. You definitely believe that. They're battle tested. Their losses have been to Aledo and North Crowley, two teams that'll be in the playoffs. So it's no doubt that Geyer is going to be a playoff team. But I think that this North Crowley team is definitely a team you need to know about when it comes to DFW football. Another big matchup features the Allen Eagles. I think they're back. They're playing a phenomenal brand of football. Shout out to my guy Caleb Smith over there. They call him the Jet for a reason. He took back a punt. He took back a kickoff against Rock Hill in the previous game that Allen took care of business 70-14. He's a guy on special teams. He can run it. He can catch it. He's a guy that's going to get the football for Allen. But I think that the Allen Eagles are back. They're undefeated right now. They'll be the favorite probably, along with Prosper in 16-6A. So I think that you're going to see this matchup, of Titans here in a couple of weeks when they take on the Prosper Eagles. But Allen's got, and listen, Plano's a tough team. They can't overlook these guys, and that's going to be another game that you might want to keep your eye on when it comes to DFW matchups. And we mentioned the Prosper Eagles; they're 3-0 on the season. They have some of the top offensive linemen in the state of Texas. You got to start with Zayden Crimpin, the Texas A&M commit. He's a guy that can get it done on the offensive line. He's been a leader on that offensive line for a couple of years. Hop on the defensive side, you talk about the USC commit and Jake Johnson. La, la, Lati, man, that's a tough one for me to say. He's a guy, wide receiver Lathan Lati Latiolis. Latiolis is a guy that you need to know about when it comes to wide receivers for those guys. On the defensive side, Tyson Stiggers is having a phenomenal year, as well as Bryce Gilmore on the offensive line. But Braden Armhoff, the quarterback, has been that guy. Man, we're talking about a guy that's been on fire the last 3 weeks or the first 3 weeks of the season. The Lamar commit's been on fire. He threw for over 400 yards last week in a big win for Prosper. And I think the Eagles are a team that I think can come out of DFW in the playoffs and make a run to Jerry World in December. They beat Austin Westlake in the first week, took care of Rockwall Heath. And I think that these guys have the recipe with that big offensive line and Amhoff at quarterback, the recipe for success is with those guys. I think that they can get it done. And they like we mentioned Allen, they got McKinney Boyd this week, Plano East, Rock Hill, Plano, McKinney, then they got Allen in October. So that by the time they get to Allen, I think you'll be having a meeting of two undefeated teams when we talk about those particular guys in that district. I think it's that's 1 and 2. Whoever comes out on top, I think will be the team that makes a deep playoff. Right? Actually, I think both teams will make the playoffs, but I think Prosper has a better chance to make this big run. Allen's right there though. They're bubbling, and they're one of the hotter teams in DFW out of the first 3 weeks of the season. Another big matchup that maybe not a lot of people are talking about is the North Forney Falcons welcoming in the 3-0 Mansfield Lake Ridge Eagles. Now, North Forney features Legend Bay, the Tennessee commit at quarterback. They also got Bryson Thrower Jr., who's a phenomenal talent at the wide receiver position. North Forney's loaded. I talked, shout out to my guy Coach Hitchens. We talked to him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he thinks that this team can definitely make that run. They're a team that I had talked about a couple of weeks ago when we had Coach Hitchens on. And if you check out the platform.dr.com, they were one of the featured teams in the platform feature. This team with the Falcons in 10-6A, I like them coming out of there. They also have Longview, Forney, Rockwall Heath, and Roy City, who is undefeated in that particular district so far when it comes to the first 3 weeks of the season. Lake Ridge is a team that is undefeated. They got a very good running back in Cotton over there that's been playing phenomenal. He's a 2027 running back. This is going to be a challenge for that defense. This will be the first real test. Um, for the North Forney Falcons when you come out and face Mansfield Lake Ridge. I think this is going to be the true test for those guys before they get in the district. And I think it's a test that they can win. But I think Lake Ridge has got something to prove. They had a big victory over Richardson last week, which is a very good team that came in, 2-1 at that particular time. But Lake Ridge is undefeated, and they're raising some eyebrows around the DFW as a team to watch. Let's talk about 5A Division One. The Aledo Bearcats they're the number one team in 5A Division One in the state of Texas. They take on a game Birdville team that, listen, they went in and beat Crowley in week one. They got it done. So, the Bearcats, they have a district winning streak that goes over a decade. They took care of Brewer last week. It wasn't even close. Caden Wingfield, the running back's having a phenomenal year. He's being recruited. He's got Sam Houston State, Lamar, and a couple of other schools. But I think Sam Houston State's really trying to make a play for this guy. I think he's one of the top. We know he's one of the top running backs in the DFW area, and he's starting to raise up as one of the top running backs, definitely in the state of Texas when it comes to the Aledo rushing. But I think that this guy knows that he's the guy back there this year. Last year he kind of shared time with Utah signee Racing Guillory. You got Caden Finley over there as well. These guys have a very, very good team, and they beat a very good Geyer team. They beat a very good Lancaster team, and it looks like they're rolling. Frisco Lone Star is another team in the DFW area that you need to know about. They're starting a sophomore quarterback in Trey Wright, who's going to be a national recruit. You heard it here. This guy is phenomenal. They also have Davion Gross, the Florida commit, and Carice Hoyt, who's being recruited by every school in the country. Frisco Lone Star, the Rangers have a chance to make a deep playoff run in 5A Division One. You got to look at those guys. Denton Ryan, Highland Park. Shout out to Buck Randall, who played phenomenal last week. He's in his junior year. He took Highland Park to a state title appearance last year, but they lost in the championship game. But Randall's having a phenomenal year as a junior. And he's a guy that's been around and familiar with the platform and DR7 from his days on 707. But he's a guy that's one of the better quarterbacks in the 2027 class in the state of Texas now, and he's leading Highland Park Scots. But I think that those three teams or four teams in 5A Division One, when it comes to the DFW area, you got Aledo, Frisco Lone Star, Denton Ryan, and Highland Park. They each have a chance to make a deep playoff run. Now, Denton Ryan and Aledo are in the same district, so they're going to run into each other in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a big game, and we'll talk about that when that week gets here. We'll definitely talk about that one. Now, 5A Division Two, we saw this South Oak Cliff Golden Bears welcome in the Longview Lobos last week. That was one of the platform DFW games, spotlight games last week. And South Oak Cliff took this game 20-17. Longview's a very good team, a 6A program that's going to be in the playoffs. Trey Hamilton played great on the offensive side of the football for Longview. Mason Washington had a good game at the running back position, but it was about this running game for South Oak Cliff and Levon Morton, Jaden Williams, and Delvin Cook connecting for a pass to take the lead to 20-17, and that defense finished it off. Jadarian Jones and Corday Houston had phenomenal games, as well as Cody Smith, the linebacker for South Oak Cliff, who's only a sophomore. He's the next best. He's the next great one at line. He's the next great one at linebacker for South Cliff in that death row defense. He's been playing phenomenal since we kicked off about 3 weeks ago. He's probably going to be newcomer of the year in his district, and he's going to have an all-district campaign as a sophomore. Jadarian Jones and Corday Houston played great, and they got after it, and that was the reason that they won the game. Was Sox defense at the end making plays to get that victory. I think that South Oak Cliff's definitely a team in 5A Division Two that's going to have something to say about who's in Jerry World in December. The Argyle Eagles, McGuire Gasperson having a phenomenal season. Aiden Bach and those guys over there, they're 2-1. They don't have a game this week, but I think if 5A Division Two runs through those guys, the Anna Coyotes are definitely another team in the DFW, and Prosper Walnut Grove. You can't talk about Prosper Walnut Grove enough without talking about senior running back Cam Newton. He's been on fire. He had over 2,000 yards last year. He's well on his way to another 2,000-yard campaign this year. And the sophomore quarterback, Hayes Hackney's been phenomenal. Hayden Cooley, Hatcher on the defensive side of the ball. Listen, the Wildcats, they are a legit team, and they'll have to face off against Anna and, of course, Lovejoy and Melissa in that district. They came, very close to making the fourth round of the playoffs. They went 3D. They won a district title in their first year as a varsity program, and they got it done. So I expect Walnut Grove to make a deep playoff run. It's going to be interesting. We'll be talking about those guys the next couple of weeks when that particular district that features Anna, Melissa, Lovejoy, and Walnut Grove. That's four teams that'll be vying for those four spots in the playoffs. But that's all we got for you today, man. We just wanted to break down some DFW football and get you ready for week four. Of course, district matchups galore across the state of Texas, but definitely DFW. Those are some of the games that we're going to keep our eye on. You can follow us on Twitter in all caps at the platform DR. Definitely check out all the latest, greatest articles on the platform.dr.com. And listen, the DR7 schedule is out for 2026, man. Go to drsports with a Z.com and check out and get registered, man. 707 will be here shortly. But listen, the schedule's already out. We know where we're going. You know what I'm saying? Texas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. It's going down. When it comes to 707, it's all about the exposure. And DR7 is going to give you that exposure. Of course, the platform is here to expose the unexposed. But I am your host, Marc Henry, for the DFW edition of the platform on the Platform Podcast Network. We'll get at you next week, man. Tap in and follow us for all the latest news and notes in the DFW area on the Platform DFW Podcast.